Hey guys, good morning. Mr. Kavanaugh here. Hey, since we're not going to be together tomorrow on a black day, I want to send you these notes as we continue discussing Congress. But I want you to get this information into your notebook. So we're going to continue on and we're going to look at the organization or structure of Congress and specifically the congressional leadership. Who leads Congress? Who are the leaders of Congress? And remember, when I'm speaking of Congress, I'm talking about both the House and the Senate. So you need to choose your words carefully. Did Congress do this? Did the House do this? Did the Senate do this? So in these notes, we're going to be looking at the structure or the organization of Congress. So remember, Congress convenes a new 2-year term on January 3rd of every odd-numbered year following the general election in November. So this is just a breakdown of congressional leadership. Many of these individuals you already know, but I want you to know the positions. So let's focus on the House first. Let's look at leadership in the House. And the leader of the House is the Speaker of the House. And as you go through these notes, which I'll submit to you, you will see the photographs that I have along in the notes. So the Speaker of the House. So we're focusing on the House. As many of you know, the Speaker of the House right now is Nancy Pelosi from California. She is the Speaker of the House, as chosen by the majority in the House. Well, right now the majority in the House is controlled by Democrats, so they get to choose who the Speaker will be. After the next election, if the House switches back to Republicans, they'll have the advantage and they will choose a Republican Speaker. But right now, the Democrats, they are the majority party in the House. They control the House. They have chosen Nancy Pelosi as Speaker of the House. She sets the agenda for the House of Reps. She is also second in line to the presidency, behind the vice president. So, God forbid, if something happened to the president and vice president today, she would be sworn in as President of the United States. Then a question that somebody asked this morning, well, then who would become vice president? Well, she would get to choose her own vice president, but that individual would need to be confirmed by both the Senate and the House. In all confirmation proceedings, it's always just Senate confirmation. But when there's a new vice president, it has to go through the Senate and the House. Remember that point. Then they ask, well, who would become Speaker? Well, then the majority caucus would choose a new Speaker. So in this case, Democrats would just select or vote on who they wanted to be the new Speaker of the House. These positions do not move up in the order of presidential succession. They do not move up. So that's how that would work. So Speaker of the House is Nancy Pelosi. The House is controlled by the Democrats, so they are the majority party. They are the majority party in the House. And the majority leader in the House of Representatives is a gentleman by the name of Steny Hoyer from Maryland. And you'll see his photograph as you go through the notes. He is the majority leader. He has been selected by the Democrats to lead them, their party in the House. The Speaker is the overall leader of the House of Representatives. The majority leader is leading the majority party, the Democrats. Well, since you have a majority party, then on the flip side, you'll have a minority party. And the minority party in the House, they are the Republicans. And they are led by the minority leader. And his name right now, the minority leader, is Kevin McCarthy from California. And you will see his picture as you go through this. So remember that. Time out. So Kevin McCarthy is the minority leader in the House of Reps, as selected by his fellow Republicans, his conference, or his caucus. We'll look at those terms here in a little bit. So that is the House. There are also a couple other positions I want you to be familiar with. I'm not too concerned you know who they are, but there's a position in the House as well as the Senate called the whip. You have a majority whip and you have a minority whip. The job of the whip is to keep track of the votes. How Republicans in the majority party, or check that, Democrats in the majority party and Republicans in the minority party, how they're planning on voting on a bill. So let's say there's a bill coming up for a vote on Friday. Kevin McCarthy, the minority whip, he would go to the whip, his party's whip, and he would ask, what's the whip count on Bill XYZ for Friday? And it's the job of the whip to know how members of that conference, all Republicans, are planning to vote on that bill, because they want to know how members of their conference are planning on voting. Are people going to vote for it? Do they want people to change their votes? Are they going to bring pressure to bear? So the job of the whip is to keep the stats. You have a majority whip and a minority whip, and they keep track of how their fellow Republicans or Democrats are going to vote on a particular bill. That's the job of the whip, is to whip up the votes, keep track of the votes, which is also part of the leadership. Check out the show on Netflix, House of Cards. That's how the main character, he starts out as, I believe, as the majority whip. That's his position in the House. So that's the House of Representatives. Let's go over to the Senate. And let's look at the leadership of the Senate. First of all, the first position in the Senate is you have the President of the Senate. The President of the Senate. The President of the Senate is always the Vice President, no matter who the Vice President is. The Vice President has two constitutional duties. One is to take over for the President if the President becomes incapacitated some way, shape, or form. The second constitutional duty of the Vice President is to act as President of the Senate. So right now, the Vice President is Kamala Harris. She is President of the Senate. However, really her only power as President of the Senate is to cast tie-breaking votes. And right now, she has a very important role to play, because as we know, the Senate is divided 50-50. Democrats have a one-vote advantage with her vote to break ties. She is the President of the Senate. It is always the Vice President. In her stead, when she's not there, there's a position known as the President Pro Tempore, or President Pro Tem. Individual doesn't have really any power to speak of. They are, however, third in line to the presidency. So you have Vice President, Speaker of the House, then President Pro Tem. The President Pro Tem, it falls to the most senior senator of the majority party. That person will be the President Pro Tem. Right now, it is Patrick Leahy from Vermont. He's been serving in the Senate for approximately 40 years. He's been there for a while. He is the President Pro Tem in the Senate, which is a position right behind the President of the Senate, a representation, if you will, of the President of the Senate when he or she is not there. So President Pro Tem, not really any amazing power in the Senate, but they are in a leadership position, and they are third in line to the presidency. The person who wields the power in the Senate always is the majority leader. Right now, that is Chuck Schumer from New York. He is the majority leader, Democrat from New York, as picked by his fellow Democrats in the Senate. They have selected him to be the majority leader. The majority leader runs the show in the Senate, sets the calendar, which bills are coming up for a vote. Really, the majority leader runs the Senate. Democrats right now have control of the Senate. albeit by one vote. So they cannot enjoy a lot of defections on certain votes. They need to keep all their members in line. Both sides do. So the majority leader in the Senate, as you'll see in the notes when I put them on your classroom page, is Chuck Schumer, and his picture's on here, from New York. So he's the majority leader. The minority leader leading the Republicans in the Senate is a senator from Kentucky by the name of Mitch McConnell. He is the minority leader in the Senate. He has been selected by his fellow Republicans in the Senate to lead them in the Senate. Remember, we're in the Senate right now. We left the House. He is the minority leader. So again, quickly, leadership in the Senate. You have the president of the Senate, which is always the vice president. You have the president pro tem, which is a representative of the vice president when they're not there. And it's the most senior senator of the majority party, which right now it's Patrick Leahy from Vermont. Then you have the majority leader, who runs the show in the Senate, the most powerful senator, and it's Chuck Schumer from New York. He's the majority leader. Then you have the minority leader, which is Mitch McConnell from Kentucky. You also have whips in the Senate as well. You have a majority whip and a minority whip. Their job is to keep track of votes, how members of their conference or caucus, how they will vote. So a little more on caucus or conference. A caucus or a conference, if you look at your study guide or in the notes here, a group of individuals who share the same political beliefs. The two most powerful caucuses or conferences are the Republicans and the Democrats. If you're a Democrat, you caucus with the Democrats. If you're a Republican, you caucus with the Republicans. There are other caucuses as well, or conferences. You may be a member of the Freedom Caucus in the House, or the Latino Caucus, or the very powerful African American or Black Caucus, comprised of African American members. So you have these minor caucuses within the Republican or Democratic caucuses. Just know that term caucus, or a lot of people use the term conference. So this makes up the congressional leadership. Know these positions, know what they do. So I'm going to attach this video to your classroom page for you to get into your notes tomorrow, since we're not going to be together. And I'll attach a copy of the notes. Get them into your notebook. Also, look at the study guide that accompanies this. You need to go through all of these things and have a working knowledge of them as we continue through Congress. What we're going to look at next time are the powers of Congress, and then bill to law. We only have 27 days till the exam, and then we're quickly going to look at the executive branch, the legislative branch, some civil liberties, civil rights, some other things. But it is your job to continuously review. I put a bunch of information on your classroom page, so you need to be continuously reviewing every evening, every night, whenever you can, in preparation for the exam, which is May 3rd. If you have any questions or concerns, make sure that you get back to me. But I know we haven't been together a while after spring break because of Way of the Cross. You need to recommit yourself now as we head into May. You have a lot going on, so make sure you are organized and make sure you are on top of things. Again, get back to me if you need anything. Kavanaugh out.